Locker Room, with all the sports news you need, live.
Hello, very good evening to you. Welcome to the Locker Room here on Indie Live Radio and Independence Live. Don't forget you can comment below on the video, and also you can comment on Twitter as well. Just look for us on Twitter at the Locker Room Indie on Twitter as well. We're here until 8:30 tonight. But after that game, I wish we would be here until 7:15. So I'm joined as always by my usual sidekicks tonight, Mr. Graham Duffy and Mr. Dave Smith. It's nice to be back, guys, with you tonight, but again, not for the performance of the game. So where do we start with that performance, Graham?
Humiliating, embarrassing, disgraceful, and that was just Grant Hanley staying on for 90 minutes, to be honest. It was awful. You know, right for the start, we just didn't look up for it. Like I did with Ukraine, I have to give Ireland credit. I thought Ireland were very, very impressive, considering they hadn't been for the whole Nations League so far. But for Scotland, that was an embarrassment. I mean, that was not a particularly great Republic of Ireland side, and we've just been humiliated by them. It was 3 going on 5 or 6. Not one player in that Scotland team gets pass marks from me. When we saw the team news at the start, you know, you're looking at Grant Hanley. Why is Grant Hanley starting over John Souttar? Grant Hanley's had a terrible season at Norwich. Scott McTominay, for me, has had a very poor season for Man United, but he starts. It was the wrong team again for me. For me, it looks like the Armenia game was just a case of Armenia were terrible rather than Scotland being very good. You have to give Ireland credit, as I said, but that was just an absolute embarrassment for Scotland all over the pitch. We had nobody. The leadership was lacking. I said in the group chat before that one thing I hate when any of my teams play, Hearts, Liverpool, Scotland, one thing I hate is being outfought. Scotland were outfought tonight all over that pitch, and that is unacceptable. It was humiliating. It was a terrible performance. And listen, I put on Twitter earlier about should Steve Clarke keep his job? A lot of folk are saying no, he shouldn't. And I have to say, I've been a big Steve Clarke fan, but tonight, questions have got to be asked.
And I suppose, Dave, what makes it worse is that was Ireland's first competitive home win in 3 years.
Yeah, well, Stephen Kenny spoke to Rory Hamilton before the game tonight, and he made the point to Rory about tonight was the possibility of getting the first big win. When I say big win, I mean beating a side above them in their respective rankings. I don't mean beating a Luxembourg or beating a San Marino. I mean a big win. That's Ireland's first big win in 7 years tonight. So last time was beating Bosnia back in 2015. Yeah, 2015. So yeah, hugely disappointing, and as Graham rightly said, very much humiliating there. I mean, I was actually in the bus going home on Wednesday night from the Scotland game at Hampden, and somebody made the point that Steve Clarke should play 2 strikers up front today. And seeing how I thought about it now, I thoroughly agree with what he says, because we offer a lot more flexibility in our forward area play when we do have an extra striker involved. But in the same token as well, we made the point 10 days ago. It was basically, you have one of these moments, gentlemen, where you're in the shower, you get towel showered off, you get dried off.
What's what you're saying here, Dave?
No, it's fine. Don't worry, else I wouldn't have said it. You get obviously dried off, you get changed, and then it's back to square one. That's exactly what's happened within the space of 10 days here. I'd argue that tonight was worse than what it was last Wednesday, and for me, that's got to be an alarming picture for Scotland. Steve Clarke, he's not a manager that plays in the front foot. I think that should be made perfectly clear. He's not a manager that's going to play tiki-taka, all-out attacking football. He's not that type of guy. But in the same token as well, balance is a big thing in football, and he hasn't got that right in some big games. Tonight, Ukraine, to an extent, some of the European Euro 2020 games, which was actually 2021, but there we go. You could argue that he doesn't have the tactical nous involved in a big game, and tonight was justified in that, because there was a lot of players playing tonight that didn't justify a start. John Suter could have started for me. And I'm not wearing a Hearts hat because that's obviously Duffers' job. But yeah, in terms of Ross Stewart merited to start, my honest opinion. I do think Andy Robertson should have been rested Wednesday night. I think he's seen a different Andy Robertson tonight. James Elliott, our fellow contributor, who was lovely and good looking with Mr. Duffy on Wednesday night, I might add. But he made the point on Wednesday that he made the point on the group chat tonight. Sorry, that he looked like he couldn't cross the road. He's tired. He shouldn't be playing Wednesday. Don't play on Wednesday. I think he got a different impetus than Andy Robertson tonight. A player that's got desire. A player that's got the play like a captain. Steve Clark rightly praised him in the press on Thursday morning after that Wednesday night game. But tonight, well off it, as was the whole team.
Graham, when we do these kind of shows, we always make notes about the game. But I'm looking at my notes here, and I did not make one positive note or any notes about Scotland.
No, and I mean, on Wednesday when I did the show, I had a list of notes written down for the first half because Scotland played well. Tonight, like you, I had nothing written down. I think there was only one real chance, and that was when Shane Duffy gave the ball away. McGinn had that shot easily saved by Kelleher, but apart from that, there was nothing. I mean, we just got dominated all over the pitch. The midfield, again, was dominated by Ireland's midfield. This is an Ireland team who hasn't won a game for I don't know how long under Stephen Kenny. Stephen Kenny was getting a lot of criticism from Ireland fans. And tonight, they looked like prime Barcelona because we let them do it. We let them get that game. It was just awful. I mean, John Lowe says in the comments here, worst performance under Clark. Players were shocking. Ralston, only player trying to beat anyone. No blame into Stewart and Brown. Defending was awful. Suter was good when he came on. But again, 73 minutes, you're bringing John Suter on. What's the point in that? I mean, seriously, what is the point in that? I mean, I don't want to go after particular individuals, right? But I keep saying this. Grant Hanley has had a terrible season at Norwich, a team that's been relegated, and he plays the full game today. And again, he was horrific. But I could go through that whole side that were horrific. Scott McTominay, awful. Defensively, Jack Hendry, again, was really poor. It was just a nothing performance from a team that I said earlier, I don't like seeing my teams get out fought, but that happened all over the pitch. I don't know what the game plan was. I said at half time, bring Ross Stewart on at half time, take off Ryan Christie, put on John Suter for Grant Hanley or Hendry. What does Steve Clark do? He brings on Billy Gilmore and puts McTominay at back three. Scott McTominay can't play centre back and he sticks him in a back three. Utterly, utterly pointless. I'm raging. I really am absolutely raging with that tonight. That was worse than Ukraine.
Let's speak about the subs now, Dave. I thought as well that obviously Ireland got the third goal, and it was a brilliant goal, you would have to say, at the beginning of the second half, and that kind of killed the game. But I thought Skibby Clark made the subs too late again.
But I don't think if we're making the play about subs 8.5 minutes into a show, Michael, that just goes to show you how poor we were tonight. If you were to start mentioning questions about subs, we'd be about an hour in. You're asking me this question 8.5 minutes into a show, and we've still got another hour and a half, 2 hours to go. That's just how bad it is, Michael. Honestly, that's just how bad it is. In all seriousness, John Suter brought on far too late. I made the point in your last question to me there that I felt he had a point to start the game tonight, John Suter. Ross Stewart was brought on far too late. Yes, Ross Stewart had an arguable case to start the game tonight as well. Armstrong came on. Didn't really make that much of a difference, obviously. Gilmore, I can kind of understand why Clark brought him on. It was more for creativity. But I do agree with what Graham's saying as well, in the McTominay sense. So, yeah. Michael, we're 9.5 minutes into the show and we're already speaking about subs. I'm finished.
Yeah, don't worry, I'll ask you again in half an hour, Dave, as well. But no, I seriously, so you can comment on the video below, but also you can go onto our Twitter page. Just look for Locker Room Indie on Twitter, and you can comment on there. Graham, you knew we were going to be in for a difficult game because it had that kind of feel about the game. It was a kind of derby, you would say, in that kind of way. but after 3 minutes, Craig Gordon got pulled right into action by a brilliant save, and after that, you thought, "Oh, here we go." And then before Ireland scored, we couldn't get out.
No, I mean, the goal was coming, let's be honest. It was coming quite early on. Ireland were up for it right from the start. You could see that. And Scotland never reacted to that. You know, the commentators mentioned it during the game. Scotland can't get out. And we were just, Ireland were pressing, but we were just so poor again. It was just, I mean, I've seen somebody on the comments as well said that was as bad as Kazakhstan when we got beat 3-0. And I can't disagree. It was dreadful.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
This is not, listen, I don't want to disrespect them, but this is not a great Ireland side. And they've absolutely dominated us. I mean, they were taking the mick at some points. I mean, I was watching that game and thinking, right, Michael Obafemi, their striker, is at Swansea. He's very, very quick. He's very impressive. I watched him a few times.
I thought he was intelligent tonight, Graham. Sorry. I thought he was really intelligent tonight.
He was. But he's very, very quick. Why are you asking Grant Hanley, who is so slow, to mark a quick player like Obafemi? Utterly pointless. Just the whole system tonight just didn't work. It was just an absolute shambles all over the pitch. And I think, you could have made many changes at halftime. You said it in the group chat. You could have taken 10 players off. They were awful. And again, Craig Gordon's had to make a couple of really good saves. But, I mean, as Robert Black says in the comments here, can't believe Clark changed Wednesday's team. And again, I know it was only 2 changes, but I keep going back to this. Why are you taking John Souttar out? And why are you playing McTominay? McTominay's been awful. I don't know what that guy does. I don't know what he's good at because I haven't seen anything. He's had a terrible season for United and yet he starts. It was just a dreadful performance all over the pitch. But I will keep going back to it, as I said against Ukraine. Ukraine were very good against us. Ireland were very good tonight. But a lot of the blame tonight for me lies on Steve Clark and that tactical. It was just a mess, an absolute mess.
Do you think as well, I mentioned this the other night when I was on against Ukraine, that horrible night, and I made a point about we were missing Tiernan Tierney, and again, I said that on the group chat to you, Dave, during the game, but we're missing him, but don't forget, he's only one man.
Yeah, but I think a big part of that is there's been a difference in complaints between Wednesday and tonight. Wednesday, Armenia game is what I mean. Wednesday, Armenia offered very little in the forward areas. Scotland were fairly comfortable across the whole 90 minutes on Wednesday. Armenia offered very little answers to that Scotland defence. And being honest, have a look back at Wednesday's game now. We never got to see the true complexities of us defensively. If Armenia had a half-decent striker, it would have been an interesting concept to see what they would have been like, or what we would like as a defensive unit. Ireland, it wasn't just 1 or 2 players. As a nucleus, they were playing a very high press. And when teams play high press, you need to be very diligent. You need to be dogged and resolute defensively, or else you're always going to get exposed. That's exactly what Scotland found themselves in tonight. I mean, Hanley all over the place, Jack Hendry, abysmal all over the place. It's a strong accusation to say, I understand, but it very much was the case. McKenna did exactly have his best game. I've made the point about momentum, and obviously players doing well as a result of winning silverware, in McKenna's case with Nottingham Forest. But you do wonder, in hindsight, about whether players are just wanting a summer holiday now. That seems to be what it is for me. Robertson is, as I alluded to, very tired. And he's got a lot of momentum from a really, really good season with Liverpool. But in hindsight as well, he needs probably a week away in Ibiza. Same with McKenna. And it's been vitally disappointing. And for Steve Clark, I'm not going to defend Steve Clark here, but I do think it's an important point to make, in the sense of Steve Clark can't just change a team in 72 hours. He can't just go and say, right, we've played this for 11, 12 games, worked a treat. We can't just change to 4-3-3, or we can't just play to old-fashioned 4-4-2, or we can't just play a 3-5-2. Doesn't work like that, because we'd have been saying exactly the same things had we got beat 3-0 by playing a 3-5-2 or a 4-4-2, then the same formation tonight. But the one good thing after Tuesday, in my honest opinion, is Steve Clark's got 2.5 months to, one, check an assessment of Kieran Tierney, who plays a pivotal figure in the Scotland side. And secondly, if Tierney isn't near to come back anytime soon, change the formation, change the system, ask your senior figures such as Andy Robertson what's the best ideas moving forward, then bang, implemented on the training pitch, which you don't get a lot of time to do, but bang, implemented. Get it installed into the players, hopefully a different set come September.
I was going to ask you, I was going to say the point, obviously they look tired, and obviously Dave brought that point up, but it's the same for both teams. Both teams has played a whole season of football, and, you know, Ireland just look up for the game more than Scotland.
They did. They were hurting. There were a lot of criticism, and rightly so, because they've not been good enough, and obviously lost to Armenia. A lot of Ireland fans that I saw on Twitter were not happy with Stephen Kenny, and tonight they looked like a team that was possessed. They really wanted it, and that really, really hurts. The fact that, you know, they wanted it more than us. Scotland should have known they were going to be up for that tonight, Ireland. You know, they're at home in front of that massive, you know, Dublin crowd, and they just looked up for it, and we didn't. And I think in the case of like Andy Robertson's played a lot of games. We all know that, but he's also played in games that, you know, Liverpool lost out on the league title on the last day. They've then lost in the Champions League final, and Andy Robertson has not had a break. He's been playing continuously. I made the point on Wednesday that would arrest him against Armenia. Armenia wasn't a game that was going to really, you know, we should have won that game anyway, and we did. So to keep playing him was absolutely pointless. And then tonight he did look exhausted. You know, some of his crossing was very poor, but again, numerous times during that first half, and not just him, but Anthony Ralston gets the ball on the right-hand side. They're looking in the box, and who's in there? There's only Che Adams in there. There's nobody in the box, and you're 2-0 down. You know, you have to change it. You've got to change the formation or change something, and we didn't do it. It was too late. I just think, you know, Ireland all over the pitch just bossed us, and defensively, we couldn't handle Obafemi and Troy Parrott. That second goal, listen, it's a great, great goal. You know, it's a brilliant ball in from Obafemi to Troy Parrott. But who's picking him up? You know, defensively, it's terrible. And even the first goal, you go back to that. Now, Shane Duffy, we all know. Shane Duffy at Celtic wasn't great. You know, Shane Duffy with the ball at his feet is not great, but in the air is a presence. And what do? We leave him unmarked in the box twice. One, he creates a goal, and two, he nearly scores another one. It's just awful from Scotland defensively. It was an absolute shambles defensively, the same as it was against Ukraine. And the point you make about Kieran Tierney, you know, I made this in the group chat. I think Kieran Tierney is such a massive miss, but you shouldn't be relying on one person to make such a difference. But I think Tierney is a massive, massive miss, because not only can he defend, but he can drive us forward as well. And we really missed that. And I will keep saying this as well. Now, I know we didn't create a lot tonight, but I will keep going back to this point. I made the point to James last week. I made the point to Graham Spears the week before that. Up front, we have nothing. You've got Che Adams, Lyndon Dykes, and Ross Stewart, and that is it. There's nothing up front, and that's a massive, massive worry.
I know you were saying media on Wednesday night, but I suppose that we were on a hiking to nothing in terms of if we win the game easy, people will say, well, you expected to win against Armenia, and if we get beat, then people will say, well, that's, you know, why are you getting beat off a wee kind of country like that, you know? So it's, you know, but I suppose at the end of the day that you've got to beat who's in front of you. It doesn't matter how good they are or how poor they are. And I suppose that I never saw the game on Wednesday night, but all reports we were so on Wednesday night. But going by tonight's performance, for me, it was as Dave said, it was like worse than Ukraine, because don't forget that even though the game was over at Hampden Park after about 70 minutes or whatever, we actually came into the game in the last 15 minutes and scored a goal and missed a brilliant chance. So I agree with Dave there where tonight's game was that worse. We could still be playing here until the end of the show and no score a goal. And in fact, no score a goal, but no creating a chance either. And that's a bit worrying.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But reflecting back on Wednesday, we didn't exactly play with a purpose, so we weren't exactly playing with an intensity by any stretch of the imagination. But what we were a threat to set pieces. Scott McKenna scores a really good set piece from a John McGinn delivery, and then Sheffield had another one in the stroke at half time. But that was really it. And then obviously Ralston scores his goal. That was from a really good ball. But I would say, with the exception of those, we weren't exactly exciting Wednesday. We were good on Wednesday, but we weren't exciting. Two different comparisons here, because on Wednesday we're the type of side that were diligent, we were streetwise, and I think that was the difference on Wednesday. Tonight, as I said, Ireland played a very high press. We didn't know how to contain. Stephen Kenny, as Graham alluded to, got a lot of criticism prior to today's game. And the pre-match talk was all about how Stephen Kenny was under pressure and how he's not done well as Ireland manager and all that kind of stuff. And it's parallels with what Steve Clark's going through at this precise moment in time as Scotland manager. But then Stephen Kenny would have done his homework. He'd have looked at the footage on Wednesday night, because there's a lot of footage goes about nowadays, Michael and Graham. He'd have looked at the footage and says, Scotland don't play by purpose. Scotland are exposed when you hit them. Scotland are not proactive enough in the ball or off the ball. Stephen Kenny would have looked at that in the footage and went, we're gonna expose Scotland here. They did that to an absolute T tonight. And that was what the difference was in this game. Ireland Otway did, left no stone unturned, and did all their homework possible in order to win this game of football tonight. And for Scotland, they've obviously been resting, and they're obviously rested on their laurels. Thought tonight was going to be not a walkover. They knew it was going to be a difficult challenge, but they did think about tonight and went, Ireland's in a predicament. 3 points back up to Scotland and then away to Armenia on Tuesday. Far from the case. And for me, big reaction needed over on Armenia on Tuesday night.
Graham, am I right in saying, or obviously we get well beat tonight, but am I right in saying that if you were really going to say, like, I'm going to give maybe pass marks to one player tonight, it would be Craig Gordon, because before Ireland scored the second goal, he pulled off a brilliant save from Shane Duffy.
Yeah, he did. But again, why is he having to make that save? You know, Shane Duffy, I've said that a minute ago. Shane Duffy in the air is a threat, and he's left unmarked in the box at a corner. It was a shambles of a defender. And yeah, Gordon does make a very good save. But I mean, you know, we seem to talk about Craig Gordon nearly every week, whether it's Hearts or Scotland making saves because the defence in front of him isn't doing their job. But you've got to look at the whole team. You know, that whole team, nobody for me gets pass marks. I mean, Ralston, yeah, I think he did okay, but again, he's part of a team that's just got beat 3-0. You know, so it's very difficult to give pass marks to an outfield player. Again, Ireland won every 50-50. You know, they were diving into tackles, they were winning the ball back. We just looked like we were just turning up for a pre-season friendly. You know, we played it. It was so slow. And again, I kind of feel sorry for Che Adams, because Adams was chasing a lot of lost balls. You know, he was having a lot of balls in the air, which isn't his game. He was having nothing to work with. And it was the same against Ukraine. He was playing off scraps. I just think I don't know what the solution is, but that again tonight, that was just awful. I mean, it really was. It was just so powder puff all over the pitch. And again, that midfield, I've spoken about midfield before, but I think McGregor and Dennis Gilmore are an excellent midfield. But tonight, I thought McTominay, McGregor and McGinn were totally overrun. And it's not their fault. They had no... It was a very, very poor night, but it was a poor night that we deserved, because we were awful.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, I go back to the point I was making early on to you, Graham, about we started the game and we couldn't get out our own half. You would say for maybe 94 minutes, but then it was like 45 minutes, because you know the Ireland had the first chance. When was it? I think I wrote down there about 13 minutes for the 3 minutes into the game, and you're thinking, well, backs to the wall, here we go again. How many times do we have to watch that performance?
Yeah, I mean,
hopefully the last time. But on you go, Graham.
No, Ireland's press was very good. You know, I said right for the start they were up for it. They had a game plan. They had, you know, Steve Clark obviously got at them right before the game. I said, get after them, and they hunted them packs. You know, they were all over us right for the start, and we couldn't get out. But when we did get the ball, we had no idea what to do with it. It was just a case of, do you know what? Let's just punt the ball forward and get out this, try and get it up the park, and it didn't work. We didn't have like a Lyndon Dykes to hold the ball up or a Ross Stewart to do something with. It was just getting punted to Adams, who that's not Adams' game. You know, the ball just kept coming straight back to us. Yes, you have to give Ireland credit because, as I said, they did press us. But when we had the ball, we were so poor in possession, again, like we were against Ukraine. And that was one of the reasons that I keep hearing people say, oh, you know, Scott McTominay is good on the ball. Sorry, I don't see it. All McTominay does is pass the ball backwards or sideways. It's like Barry Ferguson over again. He doesn't do anything productive with it. It was awful. But I will say it again. You have to give credit to Ireland because Ireland were very good. But that was just that was unacceptable from Scotland tonight. It really was.
So we went in at half-time 2-0 down, Dave, and I suppose I was thinking to myself, everybody else, this couldn't get worse. And then at the beginning of the second half, they scored 3-0. The game was over. The game was over at 2-0, actually, to be quite honest with you. And again, I never wrote anything down from a Scotland point of view because Ireland kind of dominated the game. And if it wasn't for VAR, it would have been 4-0. In fact, I was going to say it could have been worse, but to be honest, it was worse.
That looked into me.
Yeah.
Well, Michael, still 7:30, right? And I'm guaranteeing everybody that's in a pub right now watching that Scotland game is probably pissed. And I don't mean that in a excuse my French. Sorry, I should have said drunk. Drunk. Sorry, my apologies. But anyway, it was frustrating. I mean, Ireland with a high press start with a good impetus about them, but the goal through capitulating defending from our point of view. Obviously, the added the second, but then you can't fault the third goal. I think Craig Gordon could be fault for the third goal because it was a fantastic strike by the guy.
It was a brilliant goal.
Second goal could be improved upon. Good ball by the guy Obafemi, but in terms of defensively, we could be a lot better. Good intelligent play by Obafemi, but in terms of us as a defensive unit, very, very poor across the piece. Horrible night and big reaction needed on Tuesday night.
I think as well, going back to that goal, Graham, Dave, I don't know if you would agree, Graham, but you would have two goalkeepers in there and it would still be a goal.
No, I mean, the goals, the second goal and the third goal are very good goals. You know, it's a great ball from Obafemi for the second goal. It's a great little chip. And Troy Parrott does well, but again, where's the marking? And the third goal, Obafemi, it's a great hit. You know, Craig Gordon can't do anything about that. It's swerving in the air. It's a great finish. But I mean, the biggest threat we had was when Shane Duffy had the ball at the back for them because he just gave the ball away a couple of times. But apart from that, we offered nothing. It was like Ukraine again. We offered nothing. And the lack of creativity on that side is a worry. But again, defensively, we just looked so poor. And to be fair, if you look at the Armenia game, okay, we didn't have a lot to do. But there was a couple of times Armenia did get in behind us. And if they'd had a decent striker, they might have caused us problems. Defensively, they've got to tighten it up. I'm not sure I like that three at the back because we just look exposed every time. And I think the worry for me is tonight, and actually it's mentioned here by Barry Morrison, and I was going to raise this point actually, no passion in the team. If it was against England, the team would be up for it. So why not against all teams? Prima donnas, a lot of them. And that's the thing. There was a lack of passion tonight for Scotland. Ireland showed it. We didn't. You're looking at guys, I'm talking about passion, you're looking at guys like Andy Robertson, Callum McGregor, who are passionate, but tonight they were miles off it again.
I think that the only disagreement I would make to Barry's point there was no passion in the team, and if it was against England, they would be up for it. But they're playing against Ireland, so technically it was a kind of dabble in the kind of way.
I think what Barry's trying to say, Michael, sorry, is I think Ireland and England is two different complexions altogether. I mean, if you're not up for a game against England, it would kind of show you that you should be wearing the national team jersey. Ireland, as me and Graham's kind of alluded to, Ireland has been kind of this team that's been going through a predicament results-wise. So a lot of people were expecting to look at this game and go walk over for Scotland, despite the challenges implemented in the game from a Scotland persuasion. And I think that's what people are looking at. Against a side like England, I think this is what Barry's trying to say. I think a side like against England, Scotland players would offer 10% more just because of the magnitude of the game. That's exactly what Ireland did tonight. The game meant a lot more to them, to Scotland tonight, which meant Ireland gave 10% more and ultimately got the win.
I know I posted this earlier in the group chat, but I'm going to read it again because this is Ireland's record under Stephen Kenny, right? They've played 25 before tonight, played 25, won 5, drawn 9, and lost 10. And their wins were against Andorra, Azerbaijan, Qatar, Luxembourg, and Lithuania. And they've absolutely battered us tonight. That is humiliating, it's disgraceful, and it's just an embarrassment. It really is.
Yeah, no, I couldn't sum that up better myself, Graham. Embarrassing. And it shows you know, I keep them back to as well that, you know, that was Ireland's first competitive home win for 3 years. And it could going to happen against us. And they actually dominated the game from start to finish.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, what I would say in Clark is I think he gets till Tuesday. I'm trying to get some quotes for you, by the way. That's why I was busy on my phone. I think he gets Tuesday. I think he needs a big performance and a big statement Tuesday now. And then the SFA's got a big decision to make. The big thing for me is if, according to the majority of the Scottish nation at this precise moment in time, want rid of Clark, who'd you bring in?
Can I just say, right, I do not want Steve Clark, Andy Robertson, McTominay, or any player coming out tonight and saying, "Oh, we're all disappointed. We'll put it right on Tuesday." I don't want to hear that. I want to hear them rage, and I want to hear them say that was not good enough tonight. That was unacceptable tonight. I don't want to hear anything like, "Oh, you know, we'll put it right next week." That's not what I want to hear. Be raging, because I am furious with that tonight. I really am raging tonight.
I think
what I would say, Michael, what I would say is I think Clark had credibility with that result in Serbia a couple of years ago. It's slowly out of date now. It's slowly out of date. And he needs a big response in the rest of the calendar year. If he gets it, then that's absolutely up to the hierarchy of SFA. But he needs a big response between now and the rest of the calendar year. Because if he doesn't, he can say bye-bye to Euro 24. They can certainly say bye-bye to World Cup 2026.
I think Dave's right here. When I done the show against Ukraine, when we had the two Grahams on here and we were talking about the game, then I would say that you know, you have to give Steve Clark time. And obviously tonight against Ireland, if Scotland can get a decent performance and they walk away with a point, I don't think we would be on here saying about Steve Clark's kind of hasty gets to the walk after the next game. But I totally agree with you, Dave, after that performance tonight as well. You know, I mean, there should be a big game, and it is a big game for Steve Clark.
Does Ange Postecoglou have a Scottish granny? Anyway, Andy Robertson says the overall performance was nowhere good enough and not good enough for the Scottish jersey. That's twice in the last 10 days we've said that. I'm obviously listening to it right as we're speaking, right as Michael and Graham are chatting away and chewing the fat about the game. So anything else that's a good quote there, I'll get it along to you. But that's what Andy Robertson's saying after tonight's defeat.
There you go, Dave. Thank you. If you've got any comments to make about Mr. Robertson's quotes after the game, you can do so by commenting on below, and keep your comments coming, by the way, because we've got lots of brilliant comments. Well, lots of brilliant but disappointing comments coming through, and comment on Twitter as well. We're at the Locker Room Indie on Twitter as well. Graham, I was going to leave this question till 5 to 9 tonight, but I suppose we could just get ripped into this. But where could we go from here? It's like what's in Scotland before Steve Clarke came in.
See if listen, you can lose games, right? But it's how you lose them. If we'd lost 1-0 tonight, but we played well, with the numerous chances and just couldn't score.
Yeah.
I'd be sitting here tonight saying, do you know what? It's just one of these nights.
Yep.
That performance tonight was dreadful. It was unacceptable, humiliating. Every word I've just said earlier, it was disgraceful. That should not happen, and that's why the rage is so bad tonight, because that was just so awful. Where we go from here, the pub, I think. That's where I want to go right now.
Do you think as well, Graham, sorry to button there, but what about the performance there? Would you say that would you take a 2-1 defeat in terms of we played well, but we gave away a cheap goal at the end? Because okay, it's still disappointing, but it's not as much of a disappointing than that performance tonight, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, and exactly. It's what Barry says. Talk about no passion. I want to see a team that plays with passion and plays with heart and desire. I didn't see that tonight. And Andy Robertson's just said it now. That's twice in the last 10 days that we've not turned up, and that was not good enough. And I think, if you lose narrowly but you play well, if you've had chances and you're just a bit unlucky, you don't want to lose, but it's acceptable. That tonight was nowhere near acceptable. And I think Steve Clarke has got to take a lot of the blame for that. Now, I'm not going to say that he should be sacked, because I think Dave's right. He's got credibility. He got this to the Euros and that. But this performance tonight, I'm sorry, but that cannot be allowed to happen again. The same as Ukraine. But listen, Ukraine are a good side. Were they a 3-1 win? A good side? I think Ukraine did play well, but again, we weren't good enough. But that tonight, I mean, this is Ireland. I've just read the stats out about Ireland's last games. They're not a good side, and yet they've absolutely hammered us tonight, and deservedly so. That was unacceptable, and that Steve Clarke's got to come out and say, "I'm sorry, but that is nowhere near good enough. That's not the level we need to be at," like Robertson said, because that was dreadful. It really was.
Would you say that we might be speaking about this on Tuesday night if we don't get a performance and a victory against Armenia away?
I think in terms of Armenia, I know it's going to be a different kind of game because it's going to be hot. It'll be very different conditions. But
they're different side over there. They're different side over there.
Yeah. I saw them against Ireland last weekend, and okay, Ireland's been not playing so well over the past game. Obviously, we felt as we alluded
you can't only beat them 1-0 today, did they not?
Yeah.
Which is close,
Ukraine beat Armenia 3-0 today.
Oh, 3-0 was it? Okay,
Yeah.
I thought it was like 1-0. Sorry.
But I mean, you look at that game. Me and James spoke last week and said that we should be looking to take 9 points out of these 3 games, and that tonight's a backward step. We've got to be going. And winning that game. If we don't win that game on Tuesday, I'm sorry, but I think Steve Clarke's going to have a lot of questions to answer.
Yeah.
Now, again, it's difficult to say he should be sacked because, as Dave says, who are you going to bring in? But you cannot have a performance like that again tonight, because that is nowhere near good enough.
Somebody said on Twitter as well, dropping John Suter was madness, Graham.
It was. We said that. Why are you taking John Suter out and putting Grant Hanley back in, who's had a poor season at Norwich, a team that's been relegated? And again, Grant Hanley is so slow. I mean, I don't want to criticise the guy, but it's not good enough for Scotland anymore.
No.
You shouldn't be playing him. And John Suter should have played. And then you bring John Suter on when you're 3-0 down. Absolutely pointless. What is the need for that?
I don't think he's ever been good for Scotland, and that's not been me being a bit unfair. That's just me being honest with you. I don't think he's actually in Scotland class.
I just want to say, David Bathgate says in the comments here, 2 comments coming in here. John Doherty says, simple, sack the manager now. His tactics are non-existent. David Bathgate says, made Ireland look good when they were far from it. I agree with that. That's how bad the team were. So to everyone who's commenting tonight, thank you for the comments. And I'm going to post this question to you, and Dave's already asked it. If you sack Steve Clark, who do you bring in?
Graham.
Yo.
Robbie Nielsen. Could he? Because he's got a similar credibility to Steve Clark as far as I'm concerned. If you look at club level, is he a future Scotland manager?
It's a difficult one to answer. I think possibly, yeah. But again, I mean, the thing is, you know this as well. It's very different being a club manager, being a national manager, because you can't sign players on a national team. So Robin Nielsen will still have the same problem about where are the strikers coming from. You know, that's a difficulty. And I think actually James made a very good point last week when I spoke about this. Most of the good strikers in Scotland are foreigners. You've got Kyogo, you've got Furuhashi, Giacomakis, Liam Boyce, Regan Charles Cook. Most of them are foreigners. So that's a massive issue. You're looking at at Hibs, Kevin Nisbet, but Nisbet's been injured for half the season. We don't have enough Scottish players coming through. You look at the England, the Championship in England. Is there anyone in the Championship in England that can come through? I don't know. You've obviously got Ross Stewart coming in. But again, I think you made this point last week, Michael, to Graham Spears. This would have been an ideal chance for a guy like Lee Griffiths to come in. But Griffiths has ruined his career.
Yep.
So there's not a natural Scotland striker coming through. And that's a massive issue. So whoever takes the job has got the same problem Steve Clark's got, that we don't have enough quality strikers coming through.
But I mean, I also said this to Graham last week as well about where's in that striker coming from, and obviously you gave us the answer, Graham. Maybe we have to go out to the shops to buy one, but there's nobody coming through the ranks.
And then on the strikers front, I've made this point last Wednesday. We've not had a good striker since James McFadden, in my honest opinion.
Yeah, but
we've not got one coming through now either.
No, yeah. But I would maybe say Lee Griffiths if he kept his head down and be a good boy.
Dave,
Lee Griffiths is long gone.
Dave,
I'd say if there's anybody, it's Lawrence Shanklin now. If Lawrence Shanklin get a good season either in Belgium or comes back to Scotland or he goes to England and scores 10, 15, 20 goals, for me, that would be enough for me.
No, but what I mean, Dave, is if Lee Griffiths knuckled down and behaved himself, that's what I mean. Because, I mean, if he done that, it went to Dundee, it would have still been at Celtic. Yeah. Well, so that's the point I was making.
Dave, you've seen, obviously, you see a lot of lower league football. I mean, you probably know this more than I do, but have you seen anyone like lower league, like League One, League Two? I know it's maybe not the best of leagues, but have you seen anyone that could potentially come out of Scotland squad and actually make a difference up front?
He's aging. Well, I would say he's aging. Mitch Megginson at Cove Rangers. He'd be a good shout. But for me, I think for him to be considered for a Scotland squad, he'd probably have to go to a bigger club, with all due respect to Cove. He'd probably have to go to like a Premiership club like a Hibs or an Aberdeen or that kind of thing. He's obviously been around the War Leagues for a good while after being at the Dons as a youngster. There's also, I'd love to see him in the Premiership based on what he's achieved. I'd like Michael McKenna, possibly, at Brough. It's a pity Joel Newboy is no Scottish because he was really, really good at Brough as well. But apart from that, there's nobody else that's springing to mind at this precise moment in time. Airdrie have a good striker, but I forgot. Carl Smith, I think it is. He's been scoring a few goals for Airdrie, but apart from that, there's nobody else really.
The only one that I can think of, actually, and I know he's a bit older now, but the only one I can think of is Rory McAllister. He's like 35. Well, that's about all we've got. There's nothing else.
Yeah.
And that's the point I'm trying to make, because every time Scotland gets, 2 or 3 or 4 bad results, we always come back to the same subject, Graham, and we've been having this subject for years, even before Stevie Clark came in, and there's nobody coming through the ranks. I know Dave was saying about Jane McFadden, but what about the other positions on the park, midfield, defence, and all that? Goalkeeper, I think we're fine in terms of your man Gordon. we might have to get back up now because David Marshall has now retired from international football. But it is a bit of a worry for Scotland. And we always seem to come back to the same conversation. And we might have the same conversation in another, I don't know, 2 years, 2 or 3 years. There's nothing coming through it, you know. And I suppose, like, when you're speaking about this, you've got to speak about the grassroots level of Scottish football. There's nothing coming through.
Yeah.
Actually, you just made the point about goalkeepers there, right? This is another point. I know it's a bit like it's not really
his wee lad is a goalkeeper.
I can. It's not really a massive point, but why on earth did we pick 4? Was it 4 or 5 goalkeepers for these last 3 squads? What was the point in that? And we only used one of them.
Well, I understand what you're trying to say, but I think it was primarily because Xander Clark gets married tomorrow. Because Xander Clark came out the squad after that game on Wednesday. I think that was primarily why. I understand what you're saying, but I'm just making a honest point about it.
What you mean is he's a way to be an honest man, Dave?
Yeah, Xander Clark gets married tomorrow.
Boom, boom. Well done, Michael. I got that one.
Yeah. Quarter to 8 and the first joke of the night of many. But the joke tonight, I'm not being unfair, was Scotland on that park, Graham.
It was. We have more comments coming in. Barry Morrison says, Steve Clark doesn't react quickly enough. Don't sack him. Just stick a rocket up his bottom. I can't say the second, but to react quicker to situations we all can see. William Forbes says, Nisbet looked good, but he hasn't been the same since the loss of his father.
God bless.
Yeah, totally. And I think injuries as well have really massively disrupted him as well. But that game tonight, it was just, you're watching it thinking, what's the game plan here? Seriously, what is the plan? And I keep talking about it. All we did when we got the ball was just lump it forwards to Che Adams, who was against 2 or 3 Ireland defenders. Just pointless. It was so poor. And again, you know, you've got Steve Clark sat on the bench and you're thinking, right, what are you going to do to change this? And the only change he makes, and I know Dave mentioned this about 8 minutes in about the subs, but the only change he makes is to bring Billy Gilmore on and put McTominay at centre-back. It was pointless. And then within 5 minutes, you're 3-0 down. So the whole game is gone anyway. It was ridiculous. The performance tonight was just awful.
Yeah, and obviously, what do I know? I thought we were until 8:30, but 9 o'clock tonight, I'm like, oh no, how can we split this out to 9 o'clock tonight? I've got a performance like that, Dave, but we did our best.
Well, I could speak about Scotland and the 21s last night because they were much better than they were than the first team were tonight. What I would say is, what a fantastic free kick by Stephen Kelly. Let's get positive in here, Michael. Fantastic free kick by Stephen Kelly. If you haven't seen it, ladies and gentlemen, curled over the wall into the top left-hand corner beyond the Danish goalkeeper. And what I must say is, it was similar to the performance tonight from the under-21s last night. But Scotland were a lot more resolute. The 21s, Denmark had a lot of impetus, had a lot of control in the play, and had a lot of danger. But Scotland were defended really, really well. A lot better than what they did tonight. So there you go, Michael. A positive for you.
Oh, look, it's 9 o'clock already. Time flies when you're enjoying yourself. But, I mean, exactly. Obviously it's a Saturday night and we're trying to be upbeat about the Scotland game last night, but nothing to be upbeat and writing home for tonight's game, Graham, against Ireland. And so let's speak about Dave's point early on, or maybe it was you, Graham, I can't remember, about Ireland were up for the game and they were right in their faces from the word go. And after that, it was like Scotland just kind of caved in, you would say, gave in.
100% they did. You could see that. And the most disappointing thing for me is you've got, I mean, these guys in that Scotland team are all, well, they're not all good players because Grant Hanley's not a good player, but most of that team are decent players. You know, Callum McGregor's a fantastic player. He's been brilliant for Scotland. Andy Robertson, brilliant for Scotland and Liverpool. But tonight, they were just so far off it. All over the pitch, they were miles off it like they were against Ukraine. And Ireland took advantage of that. But they didn't, you know, Ireland didn't have to do a lot to be better than us. They just won their 50-50 battles. They performed better than us all over the pitch. And, you know, massive respect to Stephen Kenny. He's had a lot of stick, and deservedly so. But tonight, he got everything right. And Scotland didn't get anything right. And I think, for me, I mean, you're talking about that game on Tuesday against Armenia. I mean, that now becomes a really big game because that's a game Scotland have to win. Performance, it would be nice to get a performance, but tonight we've got to win on Tuesday because tonight it's unacceptable. I keep saying it. It was absolutely awful.
Can I make a point that's just been raised on Twitter from Hampden Roar? Fantastic podcast. When I tried to tell Michael McEwen last night about John Blaisdell, I didn't have a flipping clue who I was on about, but there we go.
I can't believe you just said that, Dave. But
Yeah.
We'll let you off.
He was like John McGinn's crack against Austria in the friendly and a couple of nice goals against Moldova apart. We just don't really skive through teams with the ability at our disposal. I thoroughly agree because you've got Carl McGregor, you've got Billy Gilmore, you've got McGinn, obviously, Andy Robertson, who's good in his own accord, Tierney, although he didn't play tonight, obviously. You've got a lot of players there who are a high caliber of player, but just haven't shown it enough on an international level, in my honest opinion. Graham?
I completely agree. I mean, I just keep going back to these players like Callum McGregor and that. And again, he just looks so far off it tonight. And he wasn't the only one. But I mean, you do have good players in that Scotland team. And I mean, is Steve Clark getting away with that a little bit? You just talked about the games that we've, that Austria game and that. Is he getting away with that a little bit? I think it's harsh. But again, I mean, I really don't want to criticise Steve Clark because I think he has done a decent job. But tonight, he deserves criticism. Ukraine, he deserves criticism. And he'll deserve a lot more if we lose to Armenia on Tuesday. But again tonight, that is nowhere near good enough. And those players have got to look at themselves in the mirror and say, I'm sorry, but that's not good enough.
Andy Robertson comes out and says, we've let the manager down. We all lost our individual battles. To the fans booing us off, they're completely correct. That performance is nowhere near good enough.
Another comment on Twitter. It says Lack is absolutely embarrassing. Ireland hasn't scored 3 goals in the campaign since 1990, and after 15 minutes, it was 3-0.
Oh, did you just say 1990 there?
Aye, 1990. Yeah.
I wasn't even born. Come on, Michael. I wasn't even born. Were you born?
Yeah, no, I wasn't born. I was on the born last week.
All right, you take them because I was born before you. That's just no fair.
Okay, I was born. Okay, I was born in '83 then. Yeah. So yeah, I mean that kind of like just sums it up. That kind of like comment on Twitter from me as well. But I mean, just as well, the game wasn't. They played 7 minutes of injury time because they could have made it worse. They could have made it 4 or 5-0.
Mm-hmm. Graham, I need to come back to you. Stephen Kingsley, would he have played a pivotal role like Tierney Wednesday and tonight? With Ukraine and tonight, beg your pardon.
To be honest, I thought Stephen Kelly's goal last night was Stephen Kingsley. It was a brilliant finish. But yeah, I mean, I think Stephen Kingsley's he's a far better defender than Grant Hanley, Jack Henry for me. I think he would have been a massive difference. And again, I don't want to be biased, but I will keep on plugging this. But see, going forward, for me, creativity-wise, Barry Mackay is probably one of the most creative players in Scotland just now that is Scottish. And I think if you give him a chance, he might be able to create something. But again, there was just so much that didn't go right for us tonight. And I did mention that I put a poll out earlier. Now, I put a poll on the Locker Room Indie. And after an hour, we've had 40 votes. And I said, are you still Steve Clark in? 20% yes, 80% no. I also put a poll on my own Twitter page about exactly the same time. And I'm just going to give you what that says as well. So after an hour again, 123 votes. Is Steve Clark still the right man for Scotland? Yes, 17%. No, 83%. So majority of fans want Steve Clark gone.
I'll say it again. If Steve Clark is the man to go, come on, ladies and gents, who's the right man?
Craig Levine, what's he doing these days?
On the Off the Ball podcast, on that, he's on that podcast with Abe Aaron's, whatever it's called. I forgot the name. You can tell me.
And I think Stevie Clark will be on that pretty soon, actually. You know, looking at that performance as well. But yeah, I mean, we keep going back to it. Who will be the manager of? Obviously, we don't like to see managers getting sacked, but I suppose it's like, you know, we're always. Why do we always keep coming back to this conversation about every 3-4 years?
Sean Maloney's out of work.
Barry
boys.
Morrison says, "Cheers, boys. I'm
Off to
I'm
try my
away."
sorrows. See you on Tuesday. We've also got John Doherty saying, "Thanks, Jets. Got to go. Got an appointment for a couple of pubs." And as I said earlier on, you're guaranteed to see every person at that pub right now absolutely drunk after that performance.
I think half the Scotland players were drunk tonight, to be honest, after that.
Yeah, well, I heard you get some weekend in Ireland to be quite
It's a good weekend in Dublin, aye. Yeah.
Did we think tonight was a stag do? Because that's what it looked like.
Or maybe they thought it was a scanned do as in scanned and don't move.
That wasn't as good as your first joke, mate.
No, right, sorry, yeah. I'm trying to pad it out, right, until 9 o'clock tonight, so I'm doing my best. Please forgive me. Let me go. Name that song. We're on till 9 o'clock tonight. Keep your comments coming in, or keep your comments coming in on Twitter, at the Locker Room Indie, on Twitter as well. We're on Indie Live, and we're on Indie Radio up until 9 o'clock tonight. You lucky people. So yeah, you're with Mike McCune, Graham Duffy, and Dave Smith. I forgot your name there, Dave. We're here until 9 o'clock tonight. So yeah, I mean, there's not a lot you can say about that game tonight, apart from we were outclassed, outplayed, and a good goal as well.
Yeah, no, in terms of tonight, it was just ludicrous, abysmal, horrible, and all the negative sentiments you could say in one sentence. It just wasn't good enough tonight.
And I think you could say good night Vienna, but we weren't in Vienna tonight. We were in Ireland, so good night Ireland, and top of the evening to you in Ireland.
Michael,
Michael,
there's some fantastic tunes in Ireland. Irish folklore is very, very good. So there'll be some tunes somewhere.
Well, you make a comment to say, how about Alex Neil for the Scotland job? Well, I've got to, as people that's tuning into the show, Steve Clark hasn't got his P45 as of yet. We're just speaking about if Stevie Clark doesn't get a victory on Tuesday, with his job on, or his jacket would be on a sugary peg, and we were asking the question, Alex Neil, Grim?
I don't know. I genuinely don't. I mean, I don't know what to think about that tonight. I know I'm raging, but I don't know what to think about should Steve Clark go. I think for me, Tuesday, as I've said, this is a massive, massive game. If we lose to Armenia, then I think he's under massive, massive pressure. I think Alec Neil, yeah, he could do a decent job, but again, it's a difficult one because I think he does have credit in the bank because he got us to the Euros. Again, I know it was to the Nations League, but Alec Neil, yeah, could potentially do a decent job. But I wanted to ask you both. I know you might touch on this later, but in terms of that game on Tuesday against Armenia, I'll ask Dave this first. Dave, are you making? I mean, let's be honest. You can make numerous changes, but what changes would you make for Tuesday night? Would you change the formation? Would you change the players? What would you do on Tuesday?
As I said earlier, I don't think you can change the formation in 72 hours. You can obviously have one or two surprises, and that's not a bad thing, I suppose. But I'd have John Suter in for McTominay. I'd have Ross Stewart in for probably Shea Adams. Probably would have Lyndon Dykes in on Tuesday. I wouldn't have mind Liam Kelly getting a start on Tuesday, in all honesty, just for experience more than anything else. Not in terms of Craig Gordon, not being good enough, because it's far from the case. More for William Kelly to get some experience. No, I'll take that one back, because it is a big game now. Craig Orange could stay before Hearts fans Scott my bottom. Right. Scott McKenna's debatable after tonight, but in the same token, there's nobody really to come in. 3 changes, and the 3 I've mentioned come in.
Michael, what would you do on Tuesday?
I would agree with Graham. No, I would agree with Dave up to the point. Lyndon Dykes. I don't think you can afford to play Lyndon Dykes on Tuesday night if you were maybe 2-0 up at half time, bring them on in the second half. But I wouldn't afford. We can't afford to go into the game with Lyndon Dykes in the team.
Is Dykes not still injured? Is he back? I thought Dykes was injured.
No, I think he's back. Yeah,
Is he back?
Yeah. We've got a comment on Twitter, and believe it or not, Graham, I'll give you one guess who it is.
Is it my friend Graham Maloney?
Yes, it's Mr. Maloney. Good evening, Graham. Hopefully you're well. I'm surrounded by Grahams on the show. It's terrible. Sack the manager, clear out the players, and give some young players a chance. They can't be worse than some of the players in England. Not good enough, or some not bothered when playing for Scotland.
We still have an hour to go.
Yeah.
We still have an hour to go. I've got a tune for you.
I can only think it's going to get better. The TV.
Yeah.
Enjoy that if you're having a sherry tonight, ladies and gentlemen.
There you go. There's Dave into the sherry and I'm brewing apple juice. What about you saying?
You can tell it's been a long night already.
Yeah, and we've got an hour to go on. No, who put us down for 9 o'clock? I'm sure it was not me. Graham, going back to that comment from your number 1 fan on Twitter, Graham Maloney, saying sack the manager, clear the players, and give youngsters a chance to play in Scotland. They can't be worse than some playing in England, not playing enough, or some not bothered when playing in Scotland. So,
The question is, what young players do you play? You know, I've said this numerous times, right? I'm not just saying this to be biased, but I'm not a massive fan of Ryan Porteous. I think he makes first too many mistakes, so I wouldn't play him. Who else have you got? You know, defensively, we don't have, like I said about the strikers, we don't have a lot of quality youngsters at the back. I mean, potentially, and I don't know if Dave might agree with us or not, potentially Ross Graham at Dundee United. Would he be one that might be able to get called back?
He's been doing well for under 21s, Ross Graham, and obviously he's been doing well in the Dundee United first team shot as well. So Ross Graham's a player that's improving all the time. I don't think he was coming straight into the Scotland side, and that's even despite Scotland not exactly doing well this evening. But yeah, I think Ross Graham's one to watch for the future. Another player that I've been impressed. I was impressed with him under 21s last night. And it'd be interesting to see how it would fit into the philosophy moving forward. Is Josh Mulligan that plays for Dundee? He did well for the 21s last night. Had a shot for a penalty, turned down, and won the free kick was dropped with Kelly dispatched away. So Mulligan did well and always looked to expose the Denmark defence, something that we didn't do this evening. So there's 2 players for you, but apart from that, very little to sing home about.
I'll tell you one other player that I think could be a really good player for Scotland. Under 21s, Connor Barron. I watched him against Belgium last week. He was the best player on the pitch. Full of energy, high pressing, good on the ball. I think Connor Barron could do a really good job on that Scotland team.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so we keep your comments coming in. We've got another comment on Twitter as well. At the Locker Room Indie on Twitter. Ryan, I mean, I suppose it's going back to your comment, your point, Graham, about Ryan Porter. I think he's very kind of, and I know you're going to be a bit biased here now when I say this point, Graham, but I think he's very overrated.
I think the thing with Porteous is I think he tends to be a little bit rash. He has had quite a few red cards this season. I know they've not all been his fault. The referee's been poor. But I think at times he does dive in where he doesn't need to. And I think he's got to cut that out. I know folk will say he's young, he'll learn. But I think he, at times... Listen, I will say that one thing about Ryan Porteous is he wears his heart on his sleeve. He is a very passionate guy. But I think sometimes that passion maybe just gets the better of him at times. So, could they step up to the Scotland squad? I genuinely don't know. But I think in terms of tonight, I mean, anyone's got to be better than Grant Hanley and Scott McKenna and Jack Henry, because that again tonight was absolutely hideous. It really was.
We've got another comment coming through on Twitter now from Rory on Twitter. Rory, give us your second name and we'll give you a mention because we're nice here on a Saturday night after Scotland gets beat. He says, I'm really confused. Scotland have a good squad and decent players, but why do we play so rubbish? But apparently, if you read that comment after the last few games, you would say, I don't think we have a decent squad. Am I being a bit unfair now, Dave?
It needs readjustments, it needs reinforcements. But where's that reinforcements is the $1 million question. As I said earlier, in the line of what the Hampden Roar podcast was saying, we don't show quality enough in the final third in certain games. And it's been a typical Scottish thing for the last 20 years. Or even since 1998, where we've had good spells in games. Ultimately, with the exclusion of Euro 2020, we've came up short in every single one of them. And it's a story that's never going to fade away. It's something that keeps on growing and growing and growing. Where there's almost been stages where Scotland have had positive feedback, had positive highlights, but ultimately never had full consistency across a qualification campaign, or in this case, a Nations League campaign. And it's hugely worrying. It's alarming. And for Steve Clarke, you do wonder what the 8 stages, for me, the 8 stages get Tuesday out of the way, try and get a professional performance in, try and create a statement, try and get the result. And then you've obviously got till September. And then from now till September, it's the opportunity for players. I'll give you a few examples. Stephen Kingsley's, Barry Mackay's, Tory Watts, who else? Alan Campbell's even, because he's obviously at Luton. It's an opportunity for these type of players to make a good start to their pre-seasons and a good start to their respective seasons. Because you've got to remember, 3 out of those 4 players, lost Graham as well, Kieran Freeman as well. So most of these players are going to have European campaigns as well. It's an opportunity for them to put themselves in Steve Clarke's thinking. Have a good start to the season. And people be in the media and people be on social media going, they should be in the Scotland squad. That's how football works. So for me, I think the next 3 months are critical for Steve Clarke.
We're starting to get quote from Stevie Clarke after the game. Just watching his bit of his press conference and going back to what Glenn was saying at the beginning of the show. This is what Stevie Clarke says after the game. I'm not going to criticise this group of players. They have been fantastic for me. Sometimes you have bad days, and unfortunately, we've had 2 bad days in a quick succession. Graham, are you going to buy that point?
No, I'm not. I'm sorry, I'm not. I think you have to be honest when you come out in press conferences. You can back the players as much as you want. Tonight was not a bad day. A bad day is going to the shop and forgetting to buy milk when you're meant to go and buy milk. That's a bad day. A bad day is not tonight. That was humiliating. We have lost to a very, very poor Ireland side. And not just lost. We've been embarrassed, disgraced. As I said earlier, it's worse than Kazakhstan. I'm sorry, but I'm not buying that at all. You cannot come out and say that's a bad day. It's not a bad day. We were humiliated. We were dominated all over the pitch. I'm sorry, I'm not buying that. I can't buy that.
We now I don't know, Dave. I feel a bit left out, right? Because on Twitter now we have Graham Maroney, and now we have a guy called Graham Wilson commenting on the show. It must
The
be
Grahams are
national.
taking over. The Grahams are taking over.
Yeah, it must be National Graham Day on a Saturday.
It's close now.
I know.
Yeah. So basically, he was saying that Steve Clark gave these players a chance. We have a decent squad now. Well, I would have to maybe. What has Clark done? You know, putting a decent squad together, and basically over a short period of time. You know, a few bad performances.
Yeah, it's been a frustrating 10 days or so. Wednesday was a good paper over the cracks exercise. I think that's fair. Ukraine was slightly disappointing, just in the sense of it was Scotland's biggest game in over 2 decades. Last Wednesday was an opportunity to reignite that. They did so expertly. It was a really good performance on Wednesday, beating Armenia in the fashion that they did. And to an extent, because of the proximity of the performance and the way things faded out within the game, and also how the things curtailed across the game, people are looking at Wednesday with a lot of confidence again. I felt a really good buzz again after Wednesday, primarily because of the win, more so because of the way we played football. Like I said, there wasn't really any major intent, there wasn't any major threat on Wednesday. There wasn't a lot of purpose in the play either, but it was streetwise. And Wednesday was a different side to what we've been expected to play. But then tonight, we're back to square one. People look at tonight and say, Scotland are jaded, Scotland are tired, Scotland are exaggerated, Scotland are abysmal, Scotland are disgraceful, Scotland are embarrassing. All these things. And I think Tuesday will tell us a lot about Scotland's character. But I mean, Wednesday night was meant to be the final answer about Scotland's character. And we haven't built on that momentum. And it's hugely, hugely disappointing.
Got some scores to bring you in tonight. Obviously, Scotland got well beat tonight. That's why we've spent the whole past hour trying to cheer people up and telling jokes, and it's not really working on the Saturday night. So just to update you, England now, Italy now, Wales now, Belgium now, Hungary 1, Germany 1, Holland 0, Poland 1. That's a very surprising score in that one. And Luxembourg 0, Turkey 0. All the games, there's 25 minutes gone, and we'll keep you up to date until we go off air at 9 o'clock tonight. Don't forget, you're listening to The Locker Room, or you're watching us, or you're listening to us. You lucky people if you're watching us on the Saturday night. You don't get this very often on the Saturday night. Keep your comments coming in, or else keep your comments coming in to Twitter. It is Locker Room Indie on Twitter as well. We'll be back, of course, on Tuesday night for my last game on Tuesday night. I think they're only at 7 o'clock on Tuesday against Amiga. That game kicks off at 5 o'clock as well. So, we're here. We spoke about that Ireland game. Give it as much as we can because there wasn't any positives to take out the game. Let's look ahead to Tuesday night, Grim, away to Amiga. Obviously, I saw the first 45 minutes against the Republic of Ireland last week. They make it very stuffy for Ireland, and of course, they went away 1-0 winners. But what should we look forward to going into that game? I think for me, it would have to be 3 points and a very decent performance, because even though we get beat tonight, we never performed well tonight.
No, we didn't. And you talk about what Steve Clark said a minute ago, talk about a bad day. I said earlier, if we'd have lost that game by a goal and we played all right and we'd had a few chances in that, I would have said, yeah, fair enough, that's a bad day. That wasn't a bad day tonight. That was unacceptable tonight. You were humiliated by an Ireland side that haven't been great. So that's not a bad day. I think on Tuesday night, we have to see something so much better. It's got to be a far better performance, pressing right for the start. Now, as Dave mentioned earlier, it'll be a different game. It'll be in the heat. It'll be a much different game. And I think as well, Armenia, I watched a bit of the game today and they sat back. They were very defensive. And then once Ukraine got the first goal, it was pretty comfortable after that. I'm expecting Scotland to have a lot of the ball on Tuesday. But it's what we do with it when we've got it. Are we going to be creating anything? I wouldn't expect to dominate the ball, but it's what we do with it. That's the problem. And it's what I keep going back to, the lack of quality up front. That's a massive issue. I think we might have to be patient, but if we can get an early goal, it might give us something to build on. But again, the longer the game goes at 0-0, the harder it's going to get. And the worst, the very worst thing that could happen, if Armenia score the first goal, it could be an absolute disaster again.
And I don't think a point would do over in the media. Gets away that, people's going to be going over there, the cat and army is going to be over there expecting Scotland to win, but also putting on a good performance. If we get a point out of that game, I'm sure lots of people, including us on Tuesday night, will be very disappointed.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. No, 3 points is the minimum requirement on Tuesday night, nothing else. If we don't get 3 points on Tuesday night, a lot of people will have very negative vibes. Probably a longer list of them than there is tonight. Tonight, people have wrote their own lists regarding Scotland in terms of abysmal, pitiful, poor, very poor, disgraceful, disgusting, whatever have you. God knows what Tuesday will be like if we don't get 3 points.
Graham, you asked me and Dave a wee while ago what team you would start with on Tuesday. Got to turn the tables round on you, mate. Who would you start and who would you start up front?
I would have Craig Gordon in goal. I'd have Alan Hansen at the back. I would have George Gordon and Kenny Douglas up front.
Archie Gemmill.
In midfield, I'd have Archie Gemmill. I'd have Gordon Strachan. I'd have Graham
Joey Harper.
Aye, him and all. Throw them all in.
James McFagan?
Nah, I wouldn't have him. He only scores 40 yards against France. What's the point in that? I honestly don't know. I think I would start Craig Gordon in goal. I think John Shooter has to play for me. Absolute guarantee he has to play. I think alongside him, I don't know if I would scrap the back three because I just think I just don't think it suits us tonight. But I wouldn't. Would I start Jack Henry? I don't know. I don't know who else I'll bring in. To be honest, I think midfield for me, I would probably start Callum McGregor, I'd start Billy Gilmore, and I'd start John McGinn because that for me that's our midfield. And up front, again, do you know what? I'd be going two up front. I'd be going Adams and Stewart because I think we need a bit more support for Adams up there. He had nothing tonight, and then we bring Stewart on, we're 3-0 down again, which is pointless. So I think I would probably start Ross Stewart. I know Graham Spears said a couple weeks ago that, he's a League One striker, but I think Ross Stewart is a goal scorer, and we don't have a lot of them. So I would be starting him and just give him a chance to say, you know what, that ball drops to you, you might have a chance of scoring. But apart from that, the rest of the side is very difficult because, you look at that bench tonight, there wasn't a lot of great options to bring on. Again, we brought in Jacob Brown and he's had 10 minutes in the last couple of games. It's not long enough. We don't know how good he is because he doesn't play. So it's very, very difficult. And I think for me, I keep going back to this again, and I will keep going back to it. And I know one player shouldn't make a massive difference, but for me, we massively miss Kieran Tierney on that side.
One point I want to make, Graham, I've seen enough of Dundee United for me to go and give a justified opinion on this. I think Tony Watt's a really, really good striker when he's involved and the team he's involved with plays two up front. When Tony Watt's up front by himself, he doesn't offer enough. But he's same with Motherwell. When Tony Watt was at Motherwell, Tony Watt and Van Veen would always play up front together. right? And Tony Watt got a real good contribution out of that. All 10 goals and a little shot under Graham Alexander prior to his move to Paris in January. Tam Courts played Tony Watt in the wide area and played, but then Tam Courts in the split games played Nicky Clark as a number 10 and Tony Watt as number 9. And Tony Watt you were seeing a difference in Tony Watt. For me, if you could fit a team around Tony Watt, I think he'd be a good addition to Scotland's squad.
I can't disagree with that. I think Tony Watt's had a really good season. I mean, I said at the time I was very surprised that he did so well for Motherwell because, you know, I've seen a few games he played and he was at Hearts for a while and he was all right, but he was nothing special. But he seems to have something. Alexander got something out of him. Tom Coates has got something out of him. I think Steve Clark potentially could get something out of him. And I think, for me, it's worthwhile throwing him in there because he can't do any worse than what anyone else has done. Yeah. So I think, yeah, you're right. If you fit him into that team, I think there is a way to fit him into that. I would definitely give him a chance because we keep saying it. We don't have enough quality strikers in that squad. And I think tonight, you know, that really showed. I said earlier, I felt sorry for Adams. He was feeding off scraps. He was getting asked to chase long balls and get punted balls in the air. That's not his game. I think Tony Watt he's a very intelligent player. He can drop off. He can pick up the ball. He can beat people. There's not a lot of players in that Scotland side can do that. And I think I would be giving her a chance. I
think, you would have no arguments if you put that up on Twitter, Dave, about who would you rather see up front, Tony Watt or Lyndon Dykes. But, yeah, night and day between Lyndon Dykes and Tony Watt. I might be doing
I'd say an overall. I understand what you're trying to say. I'd say an overall striker, Lyndon Dykes is better than Tony Watt. But the point I'm making is when Tony Watt is playing up front with somebody else, and when Tony Watt is playing, he's a really good striker. He's a player I would have in the Scotland squad if you got a cheer out of him.
But I think I would agree with you, Dave, in a way that Lyndon Dykes has to feed. Somebody would have to feed off him because you can't afford him playing up front himself. Because I might be doing a disservice to the his fan club here when I say this, but it's like playing with 10 men in your team.
Totally.
It's quite good how we've actually agreed on a point on the Saturday night, Dave. So virtual high fives to you as well. But no, seriously. I mean, I think as well that and saying that, I might have to reverse and what I'm going to say here, Graham. But would you say that you would like to see Lyndon Dykes playing up front with Tony Watt, because Tony Watt would run about all day for you, whereas we had this conversation after the Ukraine game, I think, and Lyndon Dykes is not a runner. He's a kind of goal poacher, you would say, but he can't run.
He's a target man. That's basically essentially his game, and he does. You know, he can be a good target man, and I think Dykes for somebody running off him, I think would probably make a massive difference. Yeah. Would Dykes be a help on Tuesday? I don't know, because I think again, if you play Lyndon Dykes, basically all you're going to do is just lump the ball up to him and try and win flick-ons.
And you don't know what you're going to get off him, and we can't be. You know what I mean? That's why I'm saying we can't afford to start the game with him, because we can't afford to drop any points or get beat.
No, absolutely. I'm looking at that bench tonight, right? And actually, James Elliott made this point last week, and I don't know if you guys agree with us. Now, I know he's done a good season for Celtic when he's played. So again, David Turnbull hasn't played any minutes tonight. Why do you think David Turnbull's not in that? Why do you think David Turnbull is not getting a start in that Scotland squad? There must be a reason for it.
It's a difficult one because there is a lot of quality midfielders. Obviously, Lewis Ferguson's not been included this time. Yeah, Lewis Ferguson's not been included this time in the Scotland squad. And it's primarily because Lewis Ferguson's not been getting enough games. I think it's the way Turnbull plays. Turnbull is probably a good number 8, but he's not a number 10. And ultimately, if you were to bring in David Turnbull, you probably would be taking out a John McGinn or a Gilmore.
I'm looking at the rest of that bench tonight, right? So we had, I know the players that came on, but look at that bench. Ross McCrory and Liam Kelly, 2 goalkeepers. Nathan Patterson, John Souttar, Ross Stewart, Billy Gilmore, Greg Taylor, Stuart Armstrong, David Turnbull, Jacob Brown, Alan Campbell, and Aaron Hickey. Do any of them start on Tuesday? I think we've already mentioned John Souttar. Does anyone else start on Tuesday that's on that bench?
Nathan Patterson, possibly. I know he's not match fit, but I think it'd be good for experience more than anything else.
But I don't think you can afford to take that chance, Dave.
Yeah, valid.
You could possibly say that, I don't know about you, Glenn, but you could possibly say that if we won the game tonight against Ireland and we went away to a difficult venue on Tuesday night, then you could say, well, I throw Patterson in for, 40 minutes, 45 minutes, even 50 minutes. But because we played so poorly tonight and get beat 3-0, and it could have been 5-0, to be quite honest with you, you can't afford to take any chances.
No, 100%. And I know it's difficult because, listen, I'm not a professional footballer. I'm not a manager. I don't know how players react. But again, you look at the game again. I'm going to mention them. Look at the game against Ukraine last week. Now, that was a massive, massive game, right? Now, Aaron Hickey starts that game. I don't think he was awful. I think he was okay. But then he doesn't start against Armenia, and he doesn't start again tonight. So what does that say for Aaron Hickey? Does that mean that he's not trusted?
I think there's something going on behind the scenes that we don't really know about. I mean,
good point, Graham. Sorry, Michael. Good point, Graham. Where does Aaron Hickey fit into the Scotland side? Is he a Tierney or is he a traditional right back or right wing back?
I think he has played at right wing back for Bologna a few times, but he's predominantly left-footed. So I think potentially you're looking at left wing back. But again, you've got Kieran Tierney, you've got Andy Robertson there. So it's a difficult one. But I think for me, I've just said that Aaron Hickey starts in a big game against Ukraine and then doesn't start the last 2. So what does that say? Does Steve Clarke not trust him?
Yeah.
Silence is never good on a live stream, by the way.
No.
Yeah.
But yeah. But again, it's back to what we were saying, Graham and Dave, and we might be making this point on Tuesday night after the show. After the game, you never know. But we've got nobody coming through the ranks, whether it's in the Championship or the big league in Scotland. And I suppose it's like we're saying we're missing Kieran Tierney. Yes, we are missing Kieran Tierney, but he's only one man. You can't rely on Kieran Tierney. I mean, for instance, Tierney would get if he was fit, he would have been playing tonight. But you never know. We could have still got beat tonight. So it's quite a difficult one to predict, and I've not got my crystal ball with me tonight. But I think it's very difficult to say, Kieran Tierney's the answer to us winning the game tonight. But there should be another 10 people, 10 players around about him wanting to win that game tonight. And I think they weren't up for that game, I don't think.
The most frustrating thing for me tonight, yes, okay, getting beat 3-0 is poor, but the performance, it's the lack of passion, the lack of fight, and just everything that went wrong tonight. That, for me, I said it at the start of the show, for me, you should never, ever be outfought, and we were outfought all over the park tonight, and that, for me, is not acceptable.
But I think as well, Grim, going back to what we were saying, if it was a very tight game, right, and if it was 1-8 going into 92 minutes, and a VR just didn't go all our way, okay, you would be disappointed, but you would be say, well, we actually performed well apart from the kind of VR performance, you know what I mean? And so you would actually take a half decent performance and getting beat. I know that's terrible when saying this, then not putting a fight in tonight and getting beat 3-0.
I mean, I would have loved to know, right, at half time, what was said in that dressing room at half time. Now, I'm going to bring up a guy like, see if you had I know he's older now, but see if you had a guy like Graham Souness in that dressing room, he'd be going mental at that team. I don't see enough
It's old
players.
school. It's very old school, Graham, yeah.
I don't see enough players in that dressing room who are going to be tearing folk apart. And I genuinely, as much as I like him, I don't see Steve Clarke being the type of manager that's going to go absolutely mental at folk. And I think that was needed. They should have come out at half time and they should have said, right, the way Allen started that first half, we're going to start the second half. And we didn't do it. We didn't do it at all. We were 3-0 down within 5 minutes of the second half.
But I don't know if you saw the interview before the game. John McGinn was getting interviewed by Conor McLaughlin, and he was making a point as though Stevie Clarke's not a quiet guy. But I mean, going by that comment that you made there, he is a bit of a quiet guy. But I suppose the manager takes the blame, yes. But I suppose the team has got to look at itself as well. Because as soon as they go over that white line, it's up to the team to put on a performance.
Yeah, I mean, those players at halftime should have been tearing strips of each other and saying, right, second half, we're going to turn this around. That was not good enough. And they didn't do it. They didn't do it.
Yeah. And if you can't get up for a big game like that, and I suppose it was a kind of derby game in a way, if you wanted to see it like that, because it was more of a kind of Premiership feel about the game, because it was Scotland and Ireland, and because we get to see these Irish players, whether that's in the Premiership in England or elsewhere in the world. But
I mean, you're looking at these two games against Ukraine and Ireland, right? And we've barely tested either goalkeeper over the two games.
Yeah,
that's not good enough. I mean, Quivin Kelleher tonight, the Ireland goalkeeper, could have gone and sat in the crowd because he had nothing to do. I think in the first half we had maybe one shot for John McGinn that was quite easy to handle. Apart from that, I mean, I think he must have expected a really tough night tonight, and he didn't get one. The same as that whole Ireland defence. Shane Duffy, I said it earlier, the only time we looked a threat was when Shane Duffy had the ball, and then we stopped pressing. It was just embarrassing all over the park, and I don't know why that was.
And that was opposite for Craig Gordon, because if you look at the two games that you were talking about, he was the most busiest player for Scotland. And I keep saying this, if it wasn't for him, we could get beat 5-6 tonight easy.
It was. I mean, we spoke at the Euros about the fact that Steve Clarke has done a really good job. Now, I do think he has, but again, are we being fooled a little bit because we haven't won? If you look at it, we've not won a lot of massive games. We won quite a few friendlies. We obviously won on penalties against Serbia on that. Have we really been that good? And then you look at the Euros performance. We were quite poor against the Czech Republic. We were decent against England, but that was a derby game. Like tonight, we didn't show up. And then the last game against Croatia, again, we were very poor. So, have we actually been that good under Steve Clarke? I don't know if we have been.
I suppose you could look at it like that, Graham, but I would say to you that if you're a professional football player, as soon as you go over that white line, you need to motivate yourself. It's quite different. It's quite different in training when they can start games as well. And you're saying about Serbia and all the rest of it. Yeah, I know that they're not a very top nation, but as I always keep saying, it doesn't matter. You still got to beat them. It doesn't matter how poor they are or how brilliant they are. You still got to beat these teams.
No, you do 100%, and we did. And it was great to get to the Euros, and we had the shows, and it was a buzz. And then you're thinking, right, we've got something to work with here. And then these last two performances take out Armenia, because Armenia were, I'm going to be honest, they were gash. They didn't offer anything. But these two big games that we had against Ukraine and tonight, and we've not turned up. And for Steve Clarke to go out and say, it's been 2 bad days in the last 10 days. That's not bad days. They were horrendous performances in games that mattered. These weren't friendly games. They were games that mattered, and we've not turned up in any of them. And tonight, I keep on saying this, tonight was worse than Ukraine. Yeah. Because I don't think Ireland are a very good side. And the stats prove that, what I showed earlier on. And tonight, we've been totally embarrassed.
I was going to say, Gay, I think the only difference between the Ukraine game and tonight's game is we scored a goal.
Yeah, and tonight, we didn't look like scoring at all. I mean, let's be honest, there was very little threat.
We didn't even have a shot goal game.
No, there was very little threat. And you asked the question, or Dave asked the question, where do we go from here? I genuinely don't know. But what I do know is we have got, Dave's right and you're right, we have got to go to Armenia on Tuesday and win that game. Anything less, you said a point, and you're right, a point's not good enough. We have got to win that game.
And put on a decent performance as well for the fans that's going over there.
Yeah, I mean, people are going to spend a lot of money. A lot of people go and watch Scotland, got a tartan army that go every time Scotland play, and they'll be looking for a much better performance tonight. I mean, I'm actually hoping there might be an Estonia game, and I don't turn up and we get handed the points. But I mean, on the back of that tonight, I mean, you're talking about changes that you can make. You can make numerous changes because there's a lot of players in that Scotland team tonight who don't deserve to start on Tuesday.
I keep saying this, but apart from the goalkeeper.
Yeah. I mean, I hope, let's be honest, whoever plays on Tuesday in goals, Gordon, whoever it is, I'm hoping they're not going to be massively tested because Armenia, they're not a great side. But again, we just look so poor tonight. And it's really hard because I don't want to see Steve Clarke sacked. But if we get beat on Tuesday, I'm sorry, but he might have to go.
The thing with Steve Clarke, just to jump in there, sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I was actually away brushing my teeth because I'm away to have an early night tonight, away at the gym tomorrow morning, so there you go. On Steve Clarke, he had a few sensational results for Kilmarnock, pushed the whole firm sides all the way. But as Michael alluded to earlier on, club and international management is two completely different things. And internationally, you don't have a recruitment strategy as such. It's all about choosing the best possible players for your country to play in that country. Whilst your club football is you can take in players, you have a budget, all that kind of stuff that comes with the pressures and the proximities of club management. So club and international management is two completely different things. And for me, Clark got off to a really good start with Scotland on the front foot, impressive, making huge statements, getting some big results. But slowly and surely dwindling. And I think it's definitely the beginning of the end now.
We've got a comment on Twitter, just sums it up. 2 words from Alan Stewart, Clark out. But that's a very interesting point that you make there, Dave, and we spoke about it earlier on the show as well. There's a difference between an SPFL, a top league manager and Stevie Clarke, because teams in the SPFL could go out and buy players, where Stevie Clarke really can't. He relies on people coming through and scoring goals and performing. But again, it's back to the point I was making, and I make this point against Ukraine when we done the post-match show as well. Who have we got coming through that's going to say, yes, he's going to make Skibby Clarke's next squad? Because there's nobody jumping out at the moment. And that's the difference. And that's, I think that's when you've got to cut a bit of slack to Stevie Clarke in a way. And I know you can blame his formation and his team that he picked tonight as well. You can do all that. But I suppose who's coming through the ranks? There's nobody actually standing out and say, yeah, he's going to make Skibby Clarke's next squad, because there's nothing coming.
I think timing's everything. I mean, Bruce Anderson scored a sustainable amount of goals at Livingston last season. He's not ready at the moment. Let's put that straightforward here. He's not ready for the squad at the moment. Another good season at Livingston. Get a bigger club. Go and score goals at Hearts or the Hibs or the Aberdeen. Different story, maybe. So under Clark, depending on what happens with him, I think the reason why he's not getting more action is probably because he's at this precise moment in time at St Johnstone. Jason Kerr doing reasonably well at Wigan. So he's a sincere possibility. St Johnstone fans have been screaming for him to get the Scotland squad ever since they won the Betfred Cup last year. So it's him, Jason Kerr. It's a pity Ali McCann's no Scottish. Who's the other guy? Midfielder. Well, Barry Mackay.
But I know what you're saying, Dave, right, about he's not ready yet, but my question would be, when will they be ready? Because this is Scotland. We can't afford to wait another 2 years to say, oh yeah.
I think Jason Kerr's in the Scotland squad right now.
Yeah. No, but you see, my point is we can't really hold about. We can't really sit about and say, yeah, he give him another season and see if he performs the way that he done this season. No, I'm sorry. I might be a bit harsh here, but this is Scotland. We've not getting the time to sit about. We can't afford to not go to the next European Championships. We can't, you know, and yeah. I think
Jason Kerr offers more to the Scotland side in the last few weeks than Hanley and Wayne Cooper, just to give you two examples.
Nearly, I don't want to go back to the past, but I'm gonna, because I can do that on this show. So nearly a year ago, right? We played England at Wembley and drew 0-0. And the team that day was David Marshall, Kieran Tierney, Grant Hanley, Scott McTominay, Stephen O'Donnell, Billy Gilmore, Callum McGregor, Andy Robertson, John McGinn, Che Adams, and Lyndon Dykes. A year later, you know, that was a 0-0 draw, a very good performance against an England side. A year later, and we've just been spanked 3-0 by Ireland.
And outplayed by Ireland and outplayed by Ukraine as well.
Yeah. And most of that team played against England and then got absolutely hammered tonight.
I don't know why that is, Graham. I don't know if I know that we had a comment earlier on about they can only get up for England, but I'm sorry, you're a professional football player. You should be up for every game. You're well paid. Doesn't matter if you're playing Barcelona or Maryhill. You know,
Grant Hanley kept a clean sheet against Phil Foden, Harry Kane, and Raheem Sterling, and he can't keep a clean sheet against Obafemi and Troy Parrott tonight. I mean, give me a break. It's embarrassing. It really is. It's humiliating.
But I suppose it's back to the point I was making that, and I'll say it again. Right, it doesn't matter who you're playing. If the opposition's brilliant or poor, you still got to beat them. And I know Ireland's not won a game, as I say, and I'll keep saying it till the end of the show because we've only got 15 minutes left now. 3 years, they've not won a competitive game at the Aviva. And we went there and said, yeah, okay, come on, I'll give you the ball. You can win the game. You can outplay us. You know, and it was just embarrassing from start to finish. And
so the last manager to qualify for World Cup for Scotland was Craig Brown in 1998. I mean, look how many matches we've gone through since then, and we still can't qualify. Honestly, it is so embarrassing. And I mentioned this to you earlier before Dave went off a minute ago. I mean, Dave, we're talking about Steve Clarke, right? I mean, yes, I think he's done a really good job, right? But you look at some of the teams that he's won against. We've won a lot of friendly games. I'm going to ask you this question, Dave, and honestly, do you think we have actually been that good under Steve Clarke?
In terms of what you're saying, probably not, in all honesty. As I alluded to, we got off to a fairly good start, a fast start under Steve Clarke, got some good wins, got some good performances under our belt. It's slowly but surely dwindling away. Steve Clarke has a lot of credibility for the fact that he reached Euros. But apart from that, see if he didn't, I'll be brutally honest with you as well. Had we not beaten Serbia and Belgrade in November 2020, Steve Clarke would have got it. It would have been ferocious. It would have been vociferous.
Easy for you to say.
I think the only difference you would say, Graham, is I know what you're saying, right? But I think the only difference you would give Stevie Clarke credit for as qualifying for the Euros. And then when we got to the Euros, apart from the England game, we never done nothing. We failed again.
No, we
But
didn't. I mean, you're watching David Marshall get beat from about 60 yards for Patrick Schick, and you're thinking, yeah, this isn't going to go well, is it? And it generally hasn't. And again, honestly, tonight is so frustrating because I don't want to say it, but I will keep going back to it. Ireland are not a particularly great side, but yet they've absolutely hammered us tonight, and deservedly so. So for Steve Clark, for me, to hear Steve Clark come out and say, oh, it was a bad day. I'm sorry, that's not a bad day. It's humiliating. It's embarrassing.
And I don't think we're going knee-jerk about the whole thing either. And, I mean, if we were going knee-jerk about a performance that Scotland put a lot of effort into but never got anything away from the game, understandable to that extent. But we've played a game against an Ireland side that are going for a predicament. We're playing against an Ireland side that won games of football against sides lower than Scotland and Ireland combined in the rankings. And it's been a horrendous night for the Tartan Army.
Here's a question for you both, right? On the back of that tonight, I'll ask you both. Anyone can answer this first. Do you think Ireland will do that to anyone else?
No.
Because I don't.
I don't think they would do it to Ukraine, to give us a context here.
No, I don't either. So it just shows how bad that was for Scotland tonight, that we turned up and didn't perform, and Ireland absolutely bantered us tonight. And
I think it'll make it. I think it'll make it worse, Graham, if Ireland gets beat on Tuesday night.
There's every chance, because I think Ukraine are a good side. I think we made them look good, but I think they are technically a very good side. But we didn't turn up again. And if that performance happens against Armenia, I said earlier, I expect us to dominate the ball against Armenia, but it's what we do with it when we've got it. Now, I don't expect them to come out. I think they'll sit back and defend very deep and try and play for a 0-0 draw. The question I've got is, where's the creativity coming from? That's the question I would have.
Yeah, and that's where Kieran Tierney comes down to it. But as I say, you can't rely on one man, and obviously he's out the squad now. But yeah, you're totally right there, Graham.
That'll be a first.
Well, I'm trying to be nice to you.
We're doing well, Michael. We've only got 13 minutes left. We've done well, son.
13 minutes, unlucky for some, and I suppose it was unlucky for Scotland tonight. So, yeah, I mean, Tuesday night's a big game. To be honest, guys, if we won tonight, Tuesday's game was always going to be a big game anyway.
Oh, no, 100%. But it's just the proceedings in which tonight has evolved that's getting everybody down. It's getting everybody frustrated and everybody relinquished in a bad way, where they're getting anxious about proceedings and anxious about the way forward. Had we won tonight, different story. Had we won that game 2-3-0 with a conclusive performance, with a routine win, or even a tiki-taka football performance, nobody's batting an eyelid about the performance. They're happy with the win and on to Tuesday. But because of the way the game's evolved, it's a different story.
But I think Graham was right about if we play well, a decent performance, and a VAR performance went against us, okay, we would still be annoyed about the VAR decision, and we would still be annoyed about getting beat, but we wouldn't be annoyed so much about the performance because we put in a good effort. But that was a complete opposite tonight, Graham.
By the way, I think VR went for us tonight because that goal looked over the line from where I was. I mean, that looked like it was 4-0, so we got away with that one.
But the game was over anyway, Graham. It didn't matter if it was, 2-0 or 3-0 or even 1-0.
It was, but I was sitting there going, please not 4-0, because that's just embarrassing. But I mean, yeah, you're right. As I said earlier, if we turned up tonight and we got beat, but it was a decent performance, this is a different show tonight. This is a bad day, but that wasn't a bad day. That was disgraceful. It was. This
is a cheery Steve Clark show tonight, Michael. We won tonight.
Exactly.
Not the case, unfortunately.
But unfortunately, we didn't turn up, and those players. And you mentioned earlier, Michael. Yeah, the manager picks a team, but once those players cross the white line, it's up to them. And you're right. Those players tonight as Andy Robertson and that said, they've let the country down tonight. And again, what I would say is, if I'm John Suter tonight, I'm thinking, wait a minute, how is Hanley starting in front of me? He's been awful recently. Why is he starting in front of me? I'd be raging if I was John Suter.
One of our producers, Kevin, has just commented on Twitter. By the way, you can comment. We're here for another 10 minutes yet. Locker Room Indie on Twitter. He says, "Lucky, fell asleep and missed the game. Lucky you." So can't comment, but another painful one. Going to watch your show and find out what's happening. Well, if you're watching the show, this is we're going to do our best and cheer you up, Kevin. But I'm sorry we played poor tonight and we get beat onwards and upwards to Tuesday night. And talking about Tuesday night, we're on for another show, Graham. But hopefully, I know you're not going to be on Tuesday night, but hopefully we'll win.
Well, I hope so. I've got a family night out on Tuesday, so I won't be watching it, and I won't be watching the show, but I'll watch it when I get back. And I'm hoping, I've got my fingers crossed, that Scotland will win the game, and I'm hoping that you and Dave will do a good job. I know you'll miss me, but I'm really hoping you'll do a good job, and I hope for the last one of the summer that it's a victory. Please, Scotland, just win the game. But see, before we talk about, I know we've got 10 minutes to go, but I just want to ask Dave a question about domestically. What did you make of the news that came out last week about Thomas Coates getting linked with another job? Because I was I was surprised because he's done a good job, but it's his first season. Were you surprised that link came out?
First and foremost, Tam Coates told the written media in a press conference when he took the job that he has contacts in Croatia, funnily enough. So that's maybe where the link has more or less came from, just to give you an exclusive outlook in that front. But I think the job offer coming in from Vallecca, I don't think it'll materialise, I may add, but I think it shows that the job that Tam Coates has done. Yeah. We've seen it with Robbie at the Hearts scrim, where in his first spell, he was making constant strides at Hearts and did very well. And ultimately got the interest from MK Dons. And yeah, England didn't materialise in the way he wanted it to, but MK Dons was a good learning experience for Robbie. He's came back to Hearts in a far stronger position than beforehand. It's just a pity Stevie Crawford hasn't came back in a stronger position because he's now at East Fife in League Two, for goodness sake. But with regards to Tam Coates, he's got a good backroom team as well. And Foxy, Liam Fox and Adam Ashgar, who are two good guys in the game. And Tam Coates has been linked with a couple of English clubs recently as well. Blackpool, Blackburn Rovers, and there was Charlton, I think, if I'm not mistaken, as well. So it shows that he's very much in the management market. I mean, you've got to remember, Tam Coates has been managing professionally for 6.5 years, but in Tam Coates' case, he has been, it's his first season in Premiership football. Yeah, he's worked with the club beforehand in terms of youth development way, but Tam Coates showed this season how good a manager he is. He's only going to grow through time, but then ultimately these managers will get found out through either predicaments, injuries, suspensions, even COVID perhaps. Graham Alexander had a tetchy spell. Tam Coates even had a tetchy spell himself. And I think the Championship Chiefs and Vallecca Chiefs have noticed the job that he's done. And as I said, I don't think, or according to reports, I don't think it'll materialise into much, but I think it shows the progression he's making at both Dundee United and also the progression he's making in his management career as well. 5 minutes to go, and I've got Michael McCure beautifully set up for the end.
I've got, while you guys were speaking there about Tam Coates, I saw an interview that Andy Robertson gave to the SFA website, and he says he's got to be bigger than that. I'm sorry, Graham, but again, it's back to Steve Clark's comments that I gave you half an hour ago. Why is he coming out and saying that? And these comments are poor comments, I would say.
What did they say? I missed that.
He said that we've got to be bigger than that, meaning to say that we've got to be bigger than that performance. And,
show more character, basically.
Yeah.
What did I say earlier on? I didn't want players to come out and say. I mean, it's exactly that same thing. I didn't want players to come out and say that. Yeah. Just be honest. Yeah. You know, that was unacceptable tonight. Just admit it. I mean, showing character. Why do you have to show character for a game like that? You should be up for that game right for the start. You need to match Ireland. You need to match their pressing, their passion. We didn't do that tonight, and it's not the first time. It was the same against Ukraine, but tonight's even worse. I mean, that tonight, I mean, there'll be a lot of Scotland fans going for that game in Dublin tonight. So angry, and rightly so. And you've heard me tonight, you've heard Dave tonight. Dave's a bit more calm than I am, to be honest. But I mean,
that's because I was sleeping halfway through the game and I had a very hard session at the gym this morning.
I wish
so was Scotland.
But no, I mean, comments like that just don't help. You need character. It's not about character. It's about putting a performance that's honest. Oh, honestly, I'm raging. I'm really furious now.
52 minutes gone on the game tonight. Gives you a wee quick update before we finish tonight. England 0, Italy 0, Wales 1. Wales 0, Belgium 1. Faroe Islands 2, Lithuania 1, Hungary 1, Germany 1, Holland 1, Poland 0. And Luxembourg 0, Turkey 1. As I say, middle of the second half, but we're going off here soon, so I thought we'd give you a wee update on these games. So
I'll give you two final things as well, by the way. So on the locker room indie Twitter, the poll finished. Are you still Steve Clarke in? And it finished yes 20%, no 80%. And on my own Twitter page, which I put out as well, I have had 147 votes. 147 votes. Is Steve Clarke still the right man for the job? Yes, 19%. No, 81%. So the vast majority of Scotland fans, as I said earlier, want Steve Clarke to go.
But I suppose, going back to the point that we make for the whole show, and we may as well make it again. If Steve Clarke wins on Tuesday night and they pick the right team, the fans would still be on his back because they'll say, well, it's only in media, we were expecting you to win the game. But if he gets beat, people will be saying, well, why did you not beat that team for? So he's on high, as they say in Scotland, he's on hiding to nothing, Dave.
Yeah, we've got 1 minute to go, so I'll round this up very quickly. He's on hiding to nothing. I was going to make it a point, but we won't have time because by the time I've finished, we'll be time up. So I'm not going to say it. But with regards to Steve Clarke, he needs a reaction Tuesday and then hopefully get a reaction after that September. But it's been a fairly disappointing night. And in terms of tonight, it's another bad one in the jigsaw. Faroe Islands, we've had a poor one in that one over the years. Kazakhstan, and this is another one.
Okay, thanks to Dave, thanks to Glenn tonight. Thanks to all these comments coming in on Twitter and Facebook. We love them. Keep them coming in. And hopefully we will be back on Tuesday night with a victory in Igmega. Don't forget, we're on from 7 on Tuesday until 8:30. I think it's me, Dave Smith, and Josh Henderson will be joining us from the Scottish Football Podcast.
I love Josh.
So check him out. I think Josh will be, hopefully he'll be okay because he's over in Ireland for the game tonight, believe it or not. And we are joined by David Ferguson, a good pal of the show as well. So as I say, thanks to Dave, thanks to Graham, thanks to everyone, and we'll see you on Tuesday. Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.